Good evening and welcome to another Fortean Words. Yeah, or we could do bum bum bum. Another one bites the dust. Or is that a bit much?
Well, I just decided to scroll through Twitter and I see this picture showing a rainbow. It appears over Buckingham Palace.
Oh.
Yeah, so I can share it, can't I? I know. What I'll do is I'll do at Sir H. Gray on Twitter and let him know.
What's that? Sorry, I was just going to check Twitter to see if it's been confirmed
I just
yet.
Added you.
The word
on the thing.
Oh, have you found? Oh, you've just that. Right, yeah. Rainbow appears over Buckingham Palace. So we had confirmation that she's dead yet.
I don't know, but I mean the foreigners are talking about it, and sometimes it is with domestic news that's important.
People are talking about it, but I haven't actually seen. But yeah, the Queen. I think she's dead.
I mean, a lot of people. I'm going to use the thing of some people say that she'd been dead for months, but they were waiting to officially announce it.
Oh, what, to get all the Liz Truss stuff out of the way first?
I don't know. Honestly, I really can't say. Yeah, maybe it will bury the news that, hey, look, the Conservatives have elected yet another leader, which we had no decision or choice in the matter.
Dear. Do we really have any say in the matter? Do we have any say in the matter anyway, Hobbit? You're talking as though we normally do.
Well, so to those that may or may not know, I am somewhere foreign, and the immediate topic of conversation after you've got a bit of an accent, which is a polite way of saying you're not from round here, are you, boy? Is so le Brexit went there and said, well, you see, that's a chance when the people. That was one of those things when the people did have a choice, and we voted, and the politicians had to go with it, but they're not happy, so we're being punished as a result.
Yeah, well, we've been punished because the MPs have lost their Kinnock pension plan, haven't they?
Yeah. Apparently it's been getting worse in Belgium for the past 20 years. There's a lot more homeless now.
Yeah.
And I said, well, if they can scrape together €3,000, they can go on the dinghy and they'll get put into a hotel over here.
Yeah. Which is how you're coming back, isn't it, Hobbit?
Well, you can neither confirm nor deny such spurious allegations.
Well, you can still go back on holiday to the country you're claiming asylum from, because it's happened before. I've read about it before.
So, to put this in the terms of games.
Oh, sorry. Uno's lost. Uno, the Queen's dead.
Allegedly.
Just in case you didn't know, but apparently.
Yeah. Her death has been officially announced, or is yet to be officially announced. People are actually.
Oh, are we going to put some conspiracy stuff on it, Hobbit?
Oh
yeah, it's on the Sun now. The Sun have broken it. Just check the Sun.
Okay.
6:30 they announced it. So about half an hour ago.
Coordinated.
Yeah.
They're probably getting permission from the Crown to run the article.
Well, she didn't even get to send herself a telegram, did she?
Oh, did she not live that long?
No, she's not that old, is she? How old is she? Like 90 or something? 1926 to 2022. So
does that mean
4 years short? 4 years out, Hobbit.
So does this mean that Prince Charles is now automatically our next regent? Or
the good thing is that Charles can't break a record, so we don't have to talk about Charles ever again after he dies.
I assume there will be some sort of crowning ceremony for the new regent of the realm.
Well, anyway,
The
that's this episode dated. Like, anybody who watches it in a month's time, that's this episode dated. Anyway, are we gonna talk about some 25% different D&D, Hobbit?
Yes, and also the amazing intellectual property. More of that later.
Yeah.
But you could always, if ever you felt like editing before you put the episodes on the podcast, why don't you put a forward on it saying, due to the exceptional circumstances, this show actually begins at this timestamp, like 14 minutes in or whatever.
What's the time now? 6.5 minutes in.
Oh, well, there you go. So, yeah,
guys... I've sniffed a couple of times and the chat are on me already. Right, I'm going to blow my nose then.
I've been sniffing as well.
Yeah. Yeah, well, don't sniff, because they'll be on you, Hobbit, like a pack of hyenas.
Oh, well, whatevs, man.
Yeah.
Like, I've been...
I don't know, it's quite weird. Do you sometimes just get really mucusy when you do podcasts, Hobbit? Because I sometimes do.
Well, I have been eating like some really nice food. And that makes me mucus.
Yeah, I'll just find sometimes when I'm doing, like, I'll be fine before and after, and then just during the podcast I'll just get like mega mucusy. I don't know whether it's talking or something like that.
Maybe it's just like, your body's sort of readying itself because they know you've got to like get through a lot of air.
Yeah.
So it protects your mucous membranes from drying out. Right, there you go. See? There's a reason for it. I got to say, before we get into this episode, the thing I've really been enjoying about my holiday is every day I've been cooking for myself. I'm cooking over a fire. I just grab some weeds and sticks out the garden, put charcoal on top of it, light it, and it's like, right, time to cook. And that's so far, it's been the highlight of it. It's been nice cooking for my family too. Am I back in the room?
You're back in the room. You're fine, Hobbit.
That's
right. So where do you want to start? Right. So the reason I wanted to start this, there was a bit in the Fortean Times recently. It's 40 years since the Fighting Fantasy books. I don't know how many people. I don't know. Are there many of you in the audience that have read
what Fighting Fantasy is and Choose Your Own Adventure?
It's 25% different from Choose Your Own Adventure, isn't it, Hobbit?
And we'll explain why we're saying that about Games Workshop and their rigorous pursuit of cease and desist intellectual copyright claims later. So I really want to get into that subject. I am champing at the bit to talk about Games Workshop, and it's like the way they've made money and the way they... Anyway. Yes.
So I've never actually played D&D. So like, and I've read quite a few of the Fighting Fantasy books. Used to have them in the library at school. Used to read a lot of them. So yeah, some I really enjoyed. Like I've got a copy of Space Assassin and a copy of Death Trap Dungeon that I've had for years, and I'll get them out every now and again and have a read through them.
I own Caverns of the Snow Witch, which was the first one. I really liked the
Warlock of Firetop Mountain's the first one.
Is it?
Yeah.
I thought it was Caverns of the Snow Witch.
No. It's
Oh yeah, I've played Warlock of Firetop Mountain. I really liked the Mad Max one, and there was also a Star Trek one which I couldn't win at that. I've really enjoyed Final Fantasy, but we have to explain what it is. So you've got a book, right?
Hobbit, I've got to ask, are you the same as me, where you've never ever played it properly? You just read through it and choose your own thing.
Well, I shall describe it to the audience, and you can infer from this as to whether I've played it or not. So at the start of the book, you'd have your character sheet, and I think the stats were very simple. Like,
actually, I can read it out, Hobbit, from... Oh shit!
Oh yeah!
I actually own Warlock of Firetop Mountain. I don't even know where it come from. I just found it on the bookshelf. So I can actually read it out. So, what do you want me to read first?
So, like the character sheet, describe it. Strength,
right. So, before embarking on your adventure, you must first determine your own strengths. Blah blah blah. To see how effective your preparations have been, you must use the dice to determine your initial skill and stamina scores. On pages 18 to 19, there is an adventure sheet which you may use to record the details of an adventure. On it, you will find boxes for recording your skill and stamina scores. You're advised to either record your scores on the adventure sheet in pencil or make photocopies of the page to use in further adventures.
And if you're borrowing it from the library, do photocopy it and don't do
No, just fill in the book.
You just write over other people's stuff in pencil.
So skill, stamina, and luck. Roll 1 dice, add 6 to this number, and enter this total in your skill box. Roll both dice, add 12 to the number rolled, and enter this in total in the stamina box. So to do this, you need 2 6-sided dice, do you? Or I suppose you could do one and just roll it twice.
You could just do 1 dice and roll it twice. Yeah. And they can even some books, like if you didn't have a dice, you just flick to a random page and it would have a number from 1 to 6, which is what I did.
There is also a luck box. Roll 1 die and add 6 to this number and enter this total in the luck. So you have skill, stamina, and luck.
That's actually quite different to some of the other games. I think they revised it in the future.
This is Death Trap. This is Death Trap Dungeon. It's probably a first or sort of second edition, I would have thought.
So in the later stories, what they used to do is you do your skill and stamina rolls, and if you score poorly with those, then as a sort of consequence, your luck skill would increase. And I think in some of the games, luck was fate instead, and you can spend a point of fate to undo a bad dice roll.
I don't know what edition mine is, but it says first published so this is Death Trap Dungeon. First published 1984, reprinted 1984 8 times, 1985 and 1986.
Oh well, so your version is the late at least 1986.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, they were doing this up until the mid 90s. I think they were.
Right. So when you have, do you want me to explain the battles as well?
Well, we'll get on to that. But the fact is, you roll your character. I'll just summarise what the game's about.
Yeah.
You roll your character sheet. So you got all your stats, and then you go on page 1, and page 1 will give you a description of what's happening. And then it will give you some choices. And the choices say to go onto this, you go to page X. If you go onto this, page Y. And so then you
did you ever read a Choose Your Own Adventure book? Because I don't know whether is this Choose Your Own Adventure with extra steps? Did you have to do dice rolling in Choose Your Own Adventure? Have you ever read any of those?
I've never actually. I always got the Fighting Fantasy and Choose Your Own Adventure mixed up. I never saw any Choose Your Own Adventure.
Well, you can't do that, Hobbit, because Fighting Fantasy are 25% different from Choose Your Own Adventure.
Yes. We have to explain that to the audience. Paul, you've mentioned it like 3 times.
Whatever. So, as we can say on here, Games Workshop are certainly no plagiarists, are they, Hobbit?
No, and to say so is libel under UK libel law. Or is it slander? If you print something, it's libel, and if you say something, it's slander.
So what happens is somebody else comes up with an idea, and then a little while later, Games Workshop just happen to come up with a similar idea that's 25% different, don't they? Complete coincidence. Complete coincidence.
Which in no way, shape or form is a breach of intellectual property of anybody else's.
Yeah.
Because Games Workshop knows all about intellectual property and how to respect it and how to rigorously defend it.
They are intellectual property respecters, aren't they?
Well, except for 1 or 2 circumstances, which I think might be pertinent to mention, but we'll get to those later. Spots the Space Marine comes to mind.
Right, so we're talking about Fighting Fantasy still then. So what are we on about now, Hobbit? Where are we on to
that's
now?
it. So you've made your character, and your character, basically the higher you roll in skill and stamina, the better of a chance you've got. Although it is kind of fun to play low, skill and stamina, and just have a lot of luck.
Because you can also, throughout the game as well, you can increase your skill and stamina, can't you? With items you pick up. Is it just by potions?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you go through the book. You encounter various creatures, monsters, sometimes vendors,
or aliens, because there's a few sci-fi ones, aren't there?
Yeah, and there's also the Mad Max one, which is quite fun. I liked. I think I won that.
Is that? What's it called? Road? Is it called Road? It's not. It's called. It's called. It's. I can't believe it's not Mad Max.
Yeah, that's it. it's a bit more positive than Mad Max, because I think there was like some sort of win goal, like you win the race and get the super cool car.
It's more like Death Race 2000, I should imagine, isn't it?
It's a bit like 25% different to Death Race 2000 and Mad Max, is what it's like.
Yeah.
It really is like that. People say it don't, but it be.
It is. People say it not be like that, but it do.
Yeah, that's it.
Right, so I'll put an adventure sheet up so the people at home can see it.
Yeah, there we go. So the thing is, Fighting Fantasy was Games Workshop's first product, and it was Steve Jackson.
Well, actually, Hobbit. It wasn't their first product because
no, it wasn't.
No. So founded in 1975 by John Peake, Ian Livingstone, and Steve Jackson, Games Workshop was originally a manufacturer of wooden boards for games including backgammon, Mancala, Nine Men's Morris, and Go. It later became an importer of the US role-playing game Dungeons & Dragons, and then a publisher of war games and role-playing games in its own right, but they were all 25% different from the TSR stuff they were importing.
Yep, so can't sue us because we did something different. And not just, hey, can I borrow your homework? Yeah, just copy it a bit so people won't notice.
Just make sure it doesn't look like we copied each other.
Yeah, that's it.
So what was...
Also, I think it's pertinent to mention that Games Workshop were also responsible for some of the set design in the first series of Crystal Maze.
Oh, okay.
So there was these games where they had to describe, like, it was like a board full of miniatures, and they had to do like a treasure or Easter egg hunt to uncover where the key to unlock the crystal is. It's pretty good, the first series of Crystal Maze. I mean, you can see they're sort of a bit ropey, but they were trying to figure out the times and such.
It is a side question I've got to ask you, Hobbit. Who invented the orc?
And also, like, I can't answer that for legal reasons. but yeah, because I mean, Tolkien wrote about orcs, didn't he?
Yes, that's what I. Right. So, shall I quote Wikipedia so Games Workshop don't attack us?
Yeah.
Mythological monsters with names similar to orc can be found in the Old English poem Beowulf, in early modern poetry, and in Northern European folk tales and fairy tales. Tolkien stated that he took the name from Beowulf. The orc appears on lists of imaginary creatures in two of Charles Kingsley's mid-1860s novels.
Oh, there you go. So, yeah, I mean, well, Tolkien, he would have known about Beowulf because he had access to the Oxford Medieval Library.
You know, contrary to Amazon's popular belief, Tolkien actually wrote it as wrote the Lord of the Rings as a British myth, didn't he? Because a lot of our myths got wiped out by the Romans and the Anglo-Saxons, didn't they?
What you've just said is sexist and bigoted.
Yeah.
And Amazon will be having words with you.
The possibility of racism in Tolkien's description of orcs has been debated. In a private letter, Tolkien describes orcs as squat, broad, flat-nosed, sallow-skinned, with wide mouths and slant eyes. In fact, degraded and repulsive versions of the, to Europeans, at least lovely Mongol types.
Interesting description.
Yeah, I just thought I'd add that in there while I'm having a look at the wiki on orc. So yeah, so nobody particularly invented. So whoever wrote Beowulf invented orcs, apparently.
And if Beowulf is using the term orc, that means it's been around for a while.
Yeah. So I didn't know that either.
No, and it's you're learning with us, chat, because who I'm not looking at the moment because I'm redesigning my base in this game.
Alphabet Cat said, very interesting Hobbit. I never knew that.
What about redesigning my base?
I know the bit before that, I think, when we're talking about something we were talking about.
Oh, yeah, what, plagiarism. Okay, I want to go on the subject of plagiarism.
I can't, Hobbit, you're chomping at the bit. Give me 2 seconds, I need to go and get a drink, so you can have a bit of a rant for a minute.
I'll hold the floor until you get back. Right, so Games Workshop are, I'm not going to say it because, again, libel laws, and 25% different, which is if you copy something, well, not that you would, but if your thing is 25% different from another thing, then you've not copied it, and legally you're in the clear. Which to me sounds a bit bullshit, but what do I know? I'm certainly not Games Workshop's legal team. Please don't sue me. And but put it this way, I enjoy Warhammer 40,000. I think it's a fun game, and I like the attention to detail that goes into the miniatures. So I'm not doing anything disparaging there. But the other thing I really like about Warhammer 40k is with this stuff, you've got all the great elements from sci-fi are integrated into one game. So there are a faction called the Tyranids, and it was basically when the game designers said, "Hey, those aliens from that film by Ridley Scott, what if we put them into the game? Yeah, that would be cool." And then they watched Terminator, and it's like, these Terminators are really cool, especially the liquid metal one. What if we put that into the game? And they did, and that faction was called the Necrons. And there's loads of other bits which are copied as well. We'll be getting into H.P. Lovecraft and Michael Moorcock later, because you wouldn't have chaos as we know it if it wasn't for those two authors. Lovecraft stuff is definitely the inspiration for Tzeentch, and as for Michael Moorcock, I think he actually comes up with the symbol for Chaos Undivided. Which
doesn't like the space in is it when you're in a kind of thing seems quite Lovecraftian, doesn't it?
Oh, what, the warp where it's all really distorted? I mean, that was also featured in Event Horizon, which came afterward.
Well,
so unless you want to say it,
if you find the old DMS Dope Movies and Shows, when we were talking to Walrus about this, Walrus likes to think that Event Horizon is a prequel to Warhammer 40k.
Yeah, I would actually thoroughly agree with him. And Event Horizon is the reason why Geller fields were invented to prevent such mishaps in the future.
Yeah.
So yeah, the thing is, right. Yeah, there's lots of things where you could say, oh yeah, that's definitely from this franchise and that's from this franchise. Warhammer 40k does a lot of that. I mean, I find it very interesting that the Imperial Guard, which are not called that they now call them Astra Militarum, because that you can actually copyright the term Astra Militarum.
Is that like supercalifragilisticexpialidocious? Is it?
Well, apparently you can't just say Imperial Guard, a copyrighted term. You can't say Space Marine is copyrighted term. Wow. We'll get into why that later. More about Spot the Space Marine later. But you can copyright Pig Latin terms, because it turns out nobody else has put a trademark on Astra Militarum or Adeptus Astartes. So you can do that. So yeah, in other words, if you look at the models available for both Warhammer 40k and Warhammer Fantasy, although apparently Warhammer Fantasy is finished with because they advanced, it doesn't matter, you will see influences from many other bits of fiction. And you'll probably even find Conan the Barbarian in there, because I'm sure there's definitely something
some
like
of Trimeria. Some of the Trimeria lore.
Yeah, well, I think in Warhammer Fantasy, they got, for example, definitely not Mexicans, but they're lizardmen, and in the Total Warhammer game, the lizardmen they've all got Aztec names, and they make Aztec sort of noises, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, the thing is, I'm not saying it's plagiarism for legal reasons, but I'm also saying I would understand if other people said that's blatantly plagiarism. And yet, despite that, Games Workshop are one of the most rigorous defenders of intellectual property. And that's why I get into the story of Spot the Space Marine.
Well, I'm just looking at some of the other games they do, like Blood Bowl. I mean, that's like, I don't know when that came up.
Blood Bowl is rugby and American football, but with, bashing heads in.
Well, it kind of seems a bit like, do you remember the old Amiga game, Speedball? Which was a similar thing, but without creatures.
The thing is, oh God, I can't remember what I was going to say. It don't matter.
But you're talking about their rigorous defence of any plagiarism.
Intellectual property. But that's right. I'm going to look up the story of Spot the Space Marine. But long story short, there was this fictional story for children about a Space Marine called Spot or Sam or whatever it is. And Games Workshop said, you can't use the term Space Marine. We copyrighted it. We did. And then someone, that was it. The estate of Robert Heinlein turned around and said, do you know this thing called prior art? Yeah, it turns out we used the term Space Marine first, so pay us up, bitch. And then I don't know if Games Workshop actually did pay us up, bitch. But since that time, they've redefined Space Marine as Adeptus Astartes. So, no idea what Adeptus
So
means,
what everyone calls Space Marines aren't technically aren't Space Marines anymore.
It's like, I can't believe it's not related to the estate of Robert Heinlein Marines. So yeah, they tried to sue this other author for using the term Space Marine. They failed. The estate of Robert Heinlein countersued because they're like, well, look, you're using this term. And I think also people did it as a fuck you to Games Workshop for saying, like, you just stop being arseholes about this. And, well, since that time, Games Workshop has joined Disney. So they're now part of the evil Mickey Mouse Club.
Oh, right, yeah. So representation and financial ruin loom then.
Well, they noticed how well the getting woke agenda works so well for other franchises. They're like, yeah, we too want some of that, please.
Well, haven't they said? Oh, there's a Spots the Space Marine trademark complaint that's mentioned in the Wikipedia. Games Workshop. They issued a trademark complaint against Amazon, specifically relating to the novel Spots the Space Marine, claiming it violated their European Space Marine trademark. Commentators such as Corey Doctorow, I don't know who he is, Canadian-British blogger, and digital rights group the Electronic Frontier Foundation questioned the rights of Games Workshop to trademark the term. On the 8th of February 2013, Spots the Space Marine reappeared on Amazon. Games Workshop has issued no further legal action.
Right, so did they mention anything about the estate of Robert Heinlein?
No, I'm just going to go... It's Spots, plural. Spots the Space Marine.
So, in other words, I think what happened then was that it was like maybe an informal action of the estate of Robert Heinlein was done, and like Games Workshop realised they had a lot more to lose than gain by pursuing this case, and then they gave up.
Oh, hold on. MCA Hogarth. Space Marine controversy. No, that's just pretty much... Oh dear. The person who wrote Spots the Space Marine, although she has made a career in writing queer, furry science fiction and fantasy, in real life she describes herself as a right-wing conservative, and she is vocally opposed to abortion on demand and privileged treatment of claimed gender dysphoria.
Okay, so bit of a mixed blessing this woman is, but interesting.
Ah, dear.
Wait, you say queer furry science fiction?
MCA Hogarth, her name is.
Is she the one that did the story about?
Oh,
like,
let's
there was
try the...
cat...
No, they won't. They will not say. Wikipedia will not say any more than an Amazon complaint. They won't say any more about it. I don't know whether Games Workshop have managed to get a D notice on this fucking on this thing or something, because I just can't find any proper. I can't find
Weird.
any. Yeah.
Utterly bizarre, but
hold on. No, I found what's this? Trademark bully thwarted. Spots the Space Marine back online. Score 1 for the Space Marines. I found an article about it. Last month, UK game developer Games Workshop complained to Amazon that an ebook, Spots the Space Marine, infringed its trademarks in the term Space Marine. Turns out Games Workshop sells a popular game, Warhammer 40,000, a Space Marine, and has registered marks in the term Space Marine in connection with the games. But Games Workshop has lost all sense of proportion. Obviously, we don't co-sign this. And this person's saying this, not us, Hobbit, are we?
that's it.
Said that it also had trademark rights to the term in books. Thus a trademark bully was born. After it received the complaint, Amazon promptly removed the book from its virtual shelves. When the author MCA Hogarth protested, Amazon initially refused to reinstate the book, and instead politely suggested she resolve the dispute directly with Games Workshop. Hogarth was understandably shocked. As many folks pointed out, Space Marine dates back to at least the 1930s, appearing in a variety of science fiction, including works by Robert Heinlein. It is a science Heinlein. It's a fine line with Heinlein. It is a science fiction icon. So the notion that any single entity, much less a gaming company, could have broad rights in the Space Marine is outrageous. Hogarth tried to resolve the dispute in a friendly way, but Games Workshop refused to withdraw its complaint. Hence they're calling it a trademark bully. So she reached out for Hobbit. When I read out who she reached out to help for, you're gonna wish Games Workshop won. So she reached out for help, including to EFF. I don't know what that is, and thanks to many folks, including Will Wheaton, Pope Hat, and Corey Doctorow, who helped spread the word. Will Wheaton is on this, and we were able to intervene and we were able to intervene, and to Amazon's credit, the company reviewed the claim and restored the book. Let's hope Games Workshop will now have the good sense to realise its bullying has to stop. So obviously, if they're calling them bullies, there's obviously a long and storied history of this kind of stuff going on, isn't there?
Yeah, well, the thing is, another thing as well, Games Workshop went, we haven't pissed off our customers and our fan base enough. What further way can we humiliate and bully them? Oh, I know. Do you see all these fan projects where people are doing absolutely, top-tier CGI battles featuring our intellectual property and, really furthering, being, good marketing, which we're not having to pay for. They're doing it for free. I know. Let's send cease and desist letters to all of them, so they all have to fucking shut up shop on what they're doing.
Oh, hold on a sec. Just so people know, EFF is the Electronic Frontier Foundation.
I said that.
Oh, did you? Oh, sorry, Hobbit, I didn't hear you say that.
That's all right. That's okay. So, yeah, the fact is there were some really good, third-party Games Workshop.
Well, the real problem is a lot of this third-party stuff is actually better than the tripe being put out by Marvel and Co., isn't it? All these kind of...
It really is.
Yeah.
I mean, Games Workshop are now pushing out their own media. I mean, I think that was part of, the deal with Disney, is they sent cease and desist to all third parties saying, you don't have permission to use our intellectual property. So all these really good fan projects that are being made, there was this great one about it was about Space Marines, and they're going into this temple, and there's Necrons there, and the Necrons take over the Mechanicus agents and possess them. There was another really good one, which, hold
on, I've got some comments. Marco Coletti Spaghetti has said, Games Workshop is a bioweapon stench of PO. Northampton's lost its Games Workshop. I mean, I'm not surprised because as you're saying, Hobbit, they're doing everything they can to turn the fans away, aren't they? So I think that's the. Is it part of Disney's mission statement. We must lose as many fans as we can whenever we buy a property.
The mission is like, look, the people that made this a successful franchise are toxic males, and therefore we need to do everything we can to piss them off and destroy their, childish escapism.
Yeah.
So I would say actually Disney are in the business of promoting terrorism, because what are you going to do when you run out of hobbies and you're angry because all the hobbies have been destroyed? Can you imagine? We won't talk about the Late Late Show, but there was this guy that used to have his sketch about today's hobby is... For today's hobby, you'll need the following. A flask of weak lemon drink. But anyway, moving on. Fact is, intellectual property. Right. Hemming, are you familiar with the animation style used in the Aha music video?
Yes.
There was this...
The kind of sketch, it's like... oh, fuck, isn't it a filter? Isn't it a filter now, that style?
Well, it looks like somebody's been drawing animation with pencils.
Yeah, it's like I think it's like... Is it supposed to be a comic, but it looks more like a film storyboard, doesn't it?
Do you know, I think I fucked one of my bones up. I'll have to get that checked when I get back home. My car door ate my finger, and it really bloody hurt.
Yeah.
So that was it. It was about the Black Templars, and they were dropping onto this world to fight orcs. What was it about Armageddon? And it was the
Black
story.
Templars. Is this like, because I don't know how many people have read or watched 40k.
Oh, right. Okay.
So is this 40k lore? Just a brief description.
Yeah, this is more than 40k, and one of the factions of Space Marines are called the Black Templars, and it was about Brother Chaplain Grimaldus. And it was, the more you get into this, because he did it in like 50 parts, each of the, was it 50 parts or something? Split into like 10-minute segments. So after the course of years, it was like a feature-length film, and the animation gets better and better, but always keeps that look of it's penciled in.
Oh, I can also, if we're talking about stuff like this, I'd just also, well, we're talking about Disney as well. Like there's a version, I think it's on YouTube. There's a version of someone's done the first part of the Thrawn trilogy in CGI, and it's really good.
And then the final 40k film, which I can think of, I was really looking forward to, was called Inquisitor. And it was about a Lord Inquisitor, and it had brilliant CGI. The start of the thing had it was an Imperial march. So they had a lot of these really beautifully rendered CGI of marching. Oh,
also, while we're on the subject, Hobbit, you did mention earlier that they've dropped the fantasy element. I don't know whether you said it on the show or in the pre-show, but you said they've dropped the fantasy. Is there a reason for this?
Yeah, they did something controversial. Yeah. Controversy. It caused a bit of a stir, where they decided to further the plot. And they furthered the plot by saying the gods of chaos have destroyed the realm, and then so the world known in Warhammer Fantasy is gone. Oh, it was because the Skaven kept like digging and causing like a warp breach, and that's how the gods of chaos were able to unmake reality. And then what they do now, if you're still wanting to play fantasy, is the Age of Sigmar, but the Age of Sigmar has completely different miniatures, so you can't reuse any of the miniatures you got for Warhammer Fantasy. Or you just do what all the fans do and just play amongst themselves and go, fuck you, Games Workshop.
Yeah.
You're not going to tell me we can't do this anymore.
So they do that, so you have to buy a whole new load of miniatures, I assume, is the major part of that.
Well, that's the thing. They've just stopped selling Warhammer Fantasy now. So, I mean, there'll be plenty available second-hand, and I suppose eventually people will 3D print them if the demand is high enough. But Games Workshop, they're not officially doing it at the moment. So yeah, if you like fantasy, then best get on eBay.
Yeah, if you like fantasy, get fucked.
Well, yeah, pretty much. But they also do other games as well. Like they've been doing since the 2000s, the Lord of the Rings miniatures games.
I assume fantasy properties weren't worth a lot at some point, because even they don't even own Talisman anymore, do they? It's some Pegasus company that own it now.
what Games Workshop did, especially as they were getting more
Pegasus
people
Spiel. Was it Spiel? What's the German word? Spiel?
Yeah, Spiel.
Yeah.
Spielen is to play.
Yeah. So Pegasus Spiel now own the copyright for Talisman. That's the only other Games Workshop property I've ever played. So I've only ever done the books and played Talisman. So that's as much as I've done. So I haven't actually done anything else.
Like with everything else Games Workshop does, it's purely financial calculations, and so they probably discontinued Warhammer Fantasy as Lord of the Rings miniature game was more popular. They've had a number of spin-offs of Warhammer 40,000, which they don't do anymore, but were really fun.
I assume that's the big earner for them, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it pulls in more interest than the fantasy
Is
stuff.
that do you think with the fantasy it's kind of like it's a bit troublesome with rights, and they can't aggressively police
for sure.
That could be part of it.
Like 100%. So that's it. I mean, the thing is, if you're talking about elves and orcs, it's all public domain, so you can't copyright the term wood elf, for example.
Yeah.
Or dark elf.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's probably why they've moved on there, because they've got far more of an IP and intellectual protections with Lord of the Rings. The Age of Sigmar stuff is all like them, where they make up their own terms to defend it. And then Warhammer 40k is the other one. So yeah, we've got 2 hours of this. So I'm definitely going to be talking about the spin-off games and the ones I've enjoyed.
Yeah, you can carry on. I mean, I've got some content to add, so just let me know when you're flagging, and then I can.
Oh, definitely, because we haven't touched on it yet, but I will be talking about chaos and magic and reality, because.
And then I want to talk about the Satanic Panic and some of the crackers stuff that's been blamed on D&D. Well,
we'll pretend we didn't mention Event Horizon before, and we'll talk about it again. It's like, hey, have you ever heard this film Event Horizon? It's.
I'm surprised Games Workshop haven't. Do you know what? There was at the time a 2-hour cut of Event Horizon where it probably made a whole heap more sense. But the film that got cut actually got thrown away, or it got re-recorded over, or something like
that. They lost the footage, and it's like, well, so does that 2-hour cut exist? I mean, no, don't.
I would like to see a 2-hour cut of that.
I actually think with what they did a really good job with it, because it's not supposed to make sense. That's the thing that's maddening about chaos. So yeah, Event Horizon, that was a cool film. Now.
Well, I always say it's a cool half of, because as soon as Sam Neill rips his eyes out and becomes a serial killer, I just think it just kind of loses a lot of it. There's a good film buried in there, but I don't know. Do you think that was like a film thing where they
overly harsh on it? Really, I think it stands up.
I think I'm harsh on it because I think it's a really good concept, and I just think the execution just lacked a little bit. I'm a harsh critic because I do enjoy the film.
Yeah,
if you know
same
what I mean.
Here. I think it suffers the same problem that Monty Python film, where it's like they run out of money, so they got some police to come in and say, right, got to stop that now.
I think Alphabet Cat, I think it was just run times of films at the time. So at the time it came out, like they didn't really go like 90 minutes was a long film, weren't it? It was like 80, 90 minutes was the ideal run time, wasn't it? So I think at the time people wouldn't have sat and watched a 2-hour film. Because Alphabet Cat said, was the director not allowed final cut? That's why I said that.
Okay, Alfred Hitchcock said that the length of a film should not exceed the average tolerance of the adult bladder. And can I just say one thing further? It's not true in every country, but if you want to go and watch a film and it's really long, go and watch it in Malta.
Oh, can you give Uno wants you to sell him on Event Horizon. He wants a TLDR on it.
Okay, I'll tell you that after why you should watch films in the cinema in Malta. One, you're in Malta anyway, so you're on a holiday and you've got time to do it. Two, the films are in English. Three, the Maltese believe on this strange concept called intermission, where during the middle of the film, the screen goes blank.
Hobbit, I don't know whether I'm showing my age, but I've seen films with intermissions in them.
Yeah. So because you think what's changed in the past 20 or 30 years where people have gone, oh, you know what, fuck intermissions. Nobody wants to get up for 20 minutes, get some popcorn and have a piss. No, this just happened.
Do you think it's like, well, we don't have any faith in this product, so we don't really care. It doesn't really matter when you go for a piss because you're not missing anything.
I suppose so, yeah.
That's what it kind of looks like to me.
But the thing is, like, genuinely, if I was going to go to a cinema and I wanted to join experience, like, for example, if I want to watch, like, Ice Cold in Alex, Demolition Man, or Event Horizon...
I think also a 90-minute... We're turning into DMS here. A 90-minute runtime is kind of the mother of invention. I think it keeps things lean and on an even key. It stops... There's no boredom in a 90-minute film, is there?
Look, I don't mind it when, like, somebody German or Russian makes a 3-hour-long film, like Das Boot or Stalker. But there has to be, like, you know, you have to understand what your audience is. I mean, with a film like Das Boot, I'm not watching it one go. I'm probably watching it in 3 or 4 goes.
Yeah.
But something like Ice Cold... I tell you what, it's a long film, which didn't actually feel long. It's Titanic. That was 2 hours.
Oh, I do have the what's the Blu-ray version of Apocalypse Now? I think it's the Redux version, and I'm like, oh god, will this thing please fucking end?
Yeah, there's some films which are really short but feel really long.
Yes,
Mall Cop came to mind.
Well, it reminds me of was it Red Dwarf, The Theory of Relativity? You know, if you're it might have been a book I read, but it's the theory of relativity is if you're sat next to a really pretty girl on a bench, 5 hours will seem like 5 minutes, whereas if you're sat on a hot plate, 5 minutes will seem like 5 hours. No, the other way around.
Yeah, it's time flies when you're having fun.
Yeah.
So Event Horizon to Mr. Lizardman.
Well, look at Indiana Jones. Look at all the stuff they pick into one of those, and I don't think their run times are that long, are they?
Yeah, I mean, Temple of Doom was a great story. Loads of stuff happened. You know, you're not going to feel shortchanged watching Temple of Doom.
Yeah.
So, Event Horizon, it does tie a lot into Warhammer 40k because they have this faster than light travel, and the faster than light travel goes for an alternate dimension, which happens to be hell. In Warhammer 40k, they actually explained that at one point it wasn't hell, but with both the Eldar and then man, all their nightmares and other emotions just bleed onto this alternate realm. As the shittier things got, the more and more nightmares filled up the realm of chaos, and then to the point where it occasionally manifests into reality.
I'm wrong about Indiana Jones. They are nearly 2 hours. Raiders of the Lost Ark is 115 minutes.
All right, but
118 minutes for the Temple of Doom, but yeah, they're a well earned 128 minutes for the Last Crusade, but they're a well earned 2 hours, aren't they?
I don't feel bored watching Temple of Doom. That's a film I've watched like dozens of times, and I watched it again recently. I was like, what?
I watched it again recently. Very, very good film.
This film is as good as what I remember as a kid. But I
think, I suppose you're thinking more stuff like RoboCop, Predator. I know RoboCop's at 102 minutes on RoboCop. Is that a longer cut? Is it? But still, that's only 80 minutes. That's only an hour and 20 minutes. 102.
And you know what? I was just trying to think, where is RoboCop in Warhammer 40k? And there is no... I mean, that's the thing, actually. They don't have models for the policemen in it, because they do have what they call the Adeptus Arbiters. I suppose that means the judges. But the RoboCop, at least the way he looks, that design reminds me of a Vindica assassin.
Fucking hell, loads of these films are longer than I ever thought they were. Did you know Predator was 107 minutes?
Yeah, but it needs to be, doesn't it?
Yeah. I'm quite surprised.
Because,
I thought films used to be a lot shorter. Am I thinking like really low budget films used to clock in at about 80 minutes, didn't they?
Well, you know what? If a film's 90 minutes long, I'm not going to feel like it was too short. Like, if someone told me The Big Lebowski's 90 minutes long, I'd say, yeah, that sounds about right. Or Beavis and Butthead to America's 90 minutes long. Yeah, you know, it's a full story.
Oh, let's have a look at this. I've found good films under 90 minutes on IMDb.
Beavis and Butthead.
None of these are good films. Stand By Me is... Oh, it doesn't say how long it is.
Oh, yeah, I like
Stand By Me, 89 minutes. Good film. Loads goes on in it. Spinal Tap, 82 minutes. Evil Dead, 85 minutes. So you can tell a good story. You can tell a good story in Evil Dead 2, 84 minutes. Eraserhead, 89 minutes. So you can tell a good film in 90 minutes.
Yeah, but do you really want to count Eraserhead as a good movie?
I don't know. I've never watched it.
It's disturbing as fuck.
Child's Play. Oh, Monster Squad, 79 minutes.
What about Little Shop of Horrors?
I don't know. Army of Darkness, 81 minutes. I think we're going way off. Duck Soup, 69 minutes. Now that's a good... I love Duck Soup. That's a brilliant film. You know, the Marx Brothers movie.
Anybody that says to us, I will make my point about reality and the war.
Oh, one more. Rope. Rope is a really good film. That's one of my favourite Hitchcock films.
Henry. How about I wrap up with the Games Workshop stuff and we can talk about good movies under 90 minutes? But in conclusion,
I think we'll need to do another one. I think should we just do a one-off movie show or movie show?
I have a good way to segue that in. Don't tell the audience. But what we'll do, right, is we'll say, because Games Workshop definitely plagiarises, allegedly, don't sue us, from every other intellectual property, let's just talk about the cool stuff that they ripped from, like Dune, Robert Heinlein, Starship Troopers,
Tolkien,
Michael Moorcock, Tolkien, H.P. Lovecraft.
Michael Moorcock, I've read a few of his books. I need to read them again because I don't really remember reading them. I've got a little box set of 4 of his books.
Right, in that case, you can talk about it because I can explain the H.P. Lovecraft.
I can't talk about it although I read it, it was a very, very long time ago.
All right, let me wrap this up and so we can segue and talk about movies.
No, I want to talk about Satanic Panic.
Oh, yeah, we'll do that too. So let me talk about, games, they have an interesting concept which I think is very good, and somebody else who shall remain nameless also mentioned that our perceptions affect reality. Like we actually shape a reality around us. I mean, there's that phrase in the Bible. If you've got faith,
if you think about it, Hobbit, every time you roll that dice, you're trying to change reality. You're trying to put your reality into that dice roll, aren't you?
Yeah.
If you want to go big brained about it, you're attempting to change reality, aren't you? You're attempting to change the reality by getting a favourable dice roll.
Yeah, that's it. Up until that point, the reality is uncertain until you've decided what it is.
Schrodinger's dice roll.
Yes, that's it. You don't know it's going to be a 6 until you've rolled it.
Yeah.
So they have got this thing where the warp shapes reality around it, and the warp is shaped by people's thoughts. And likewise, in reality, because, well, I'll say that bit from the Bible, and somebody can hopefully do a chapter and verse on me. Jesus said, if you've got faith, you can move any mountain.
Yeah.
And another way I take it saying that is like, we ourselves actually shape reality around us, and it's more profound than what you think. And an example in Warhammer 40k is orcs. The way their technology works is they believe in it. For example, everyone knows red makes it go faster, so that's why they paint their vehicles red. And you've never seen a purple orc. That's why any stealthy orc is purple. And also a thing of it shouldn't work. It really should just be a piece of scrap metal. but because an orc believes it works, their shooter actually shoots.
Right, so which one is it? You will say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it will move. Nothing will be impossible to you.
That's it.
Matthew 17:20.
I say it's a profound statement because really it's just people have, for whatever reason, accepted limitations around it. But if you and a group of people decide things are going to be a certain way, they will be a certain way. And unfortunately, it just seems those that really understand that thing say, well, the way things should be is people living in pods and eating bugs and generally being miserable. Whereas other people saying, no, I disagree with that. I think people should be happy, should be plentiful, and they should have their own food. It really depends on what people want. And
well, well, I think we're probably going to do 2012 at some point. Weren't we supposed to have some sort of influence on 2012? I've heard some people say this, that we were supposed to be, and we got what we got, but we were supposed to. We were supposed to. It was down to us to intend what happened after 2012.
If you believe in the flat Earth creationist model of the world, then we're centre stage. So of course we've got something to say about 2012 because it's the change of one age of the zodiac for another.
So we've gone from Aquarius into what's after Aquarius? Pisces, isn't it? Or have you already come out of Aquarius?
Unfortunately, I don't know what.
Some say that Crowley has changed us. Crowley was the beginning of current year. He did it with that ritual he did about is it the moon? Did he do the moon child or the other one?
Well, he did a bunch of rituals, didn't he?
Yeah, he summoned the moon. I think it's the moon child. I'm not sure.
I do know. I think before Jesus was the age of Taurus, and after Jesus was it the age of what's the sheep called?
Well, I thought the 60s were the age of Aquarius because there was that song. This is the dawning of the age of Aquarius. You remember that one, do you, of it?
I thought it was about hailing Aquarius, like it's yet to come, but they're looking for it.
Let's have a look. The age of Aquarius.
Now, to any of those wondering, they're not talking about Games Workshop right now. Actually, we are, you see, because any zeitgeist of the moment. Hey, there's one of those.
What the fuck? Word. The age of Aquarius, 20. I don't know. Someone said 3563. I read it somewhere. I don't know. We may or may not be in the age of Aquarius. I don't know. I don't know about this stuff. It seems like women's racism to me.
Zodiacism is racist but womanly.
Yeah.
It's feminine racism.
The sheep is Aries, Hobbit. Well, it's not the sheep, it's the ram. Actually, Alphabet Cat.
So it went from the age of Taurus.
Oh, he corrected himself, ram. Damn, I just read it.
It went from the age of Taurus, the age of Aries, and that was the.
I don't know. I'm pretty convinced that we're in the age of sheep, Hobbit.
We still are. If we've yet to be in the age of Aquarius, then we're still in the Aryan age.
No, Capricorn's before Aquarius.
Is it?
Yeah.
So we're in the age of Capricorn.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Is that why it's I Pet Goat exists? It's been years and years since I watched those films, but someone's been saying, "Oh, I should watch it again because it predicted the unspecified event of unspecified origin." I Pet Goat and the sequel, I Pet Goat 2. The first one was about. How
did they come up with the title for the sequel?
Oh, it was very original, I know. But the first one it depicted the events of the 11th of September and the Gulf War II.
I think these things kick off with big events. I'd say World War II was an age, wasn't it? Whatever the age of World War II was, it's over now, isn't it? I see. This has got like the ancient ages. So let's go for Christian era. So from 1 Christian era to 2150 Christian era would be Pisces. Aquarius will be 2150, a Christian era.
Oh, okay. Also known as Anno Domini for the old-fashioned.
Oh, so the age of Pisces is the rise of Christianity, symbolised early on the Ichthys, and Islam, and the beginnings of globalisation.
Oh, so is that why Jesus says you'll be a fisher of men?
Probably. What's the Ichthys? Oh, the Greek. So it's the fish symbol. Because doesn't it matter? Doesn't it make a difference? So you see people who have the fish on the back of their car. What denomination they are depends on which way the fish is swimming. Someone told me once. I don't know how true it is.
Why can't they just be like, if they've got like a Virgin Mary in their car, they're a Catholic.
Yeah.
Like a road. Because apparently, no, chat, correct me if I'm wrong, but apparently Protestants don't pray the Rosary. That's just the Catholics. I don't know what Orthodox do. I'm sure they've got a Rosary. But I found out recently Protestants don't even worship
on the cusp,
Mary.
On the cusp, we've got 100 years yet left of Aquarius, of Pisces.
Oh, okay.
How can Pisces be before... What? How can Pisces... Is it going backwards then? Libra, Virgo, Leo, Cancer... It's going backwards.
All right.
That's weird.
Okay. Yeah, but isn't that because of the way of well, I say precession. Precession in the globe model explains why you get this changing of zodiacs. But,
yeah, but it's weird that the zodiacs go backwards.
I haven't thought about it, so I'll just say I don't know really. That's the way it is.
Anyway, so we're talking about ages. You got anything more on?
Well, you're going to do Satanic Panic, weren't you?
Do you want to do Satanic Panic? Because D&D is up there with Judas Priest, and when it comes to Satanic Panic, it's the one, isn't it? So
because parents were getting really cross with the kids destroying their pickup cartridges by playing records backwards.
just bits of record, just little swirly bits of record getting chucked out.
Yeah, it's like, oh, you've completely ruined that record. It's like you've put scratches in it backwards, so it doesn't play right normally. And then that's why Autofon came up with the Concorde and the Autofon Concorde cartridge, so-called, because of the way it picks nose down, looks like the Concorde when it comes to land.
There are some pretty interesting stuff that comes out of this. So let's go back to the 1980s. Vice City, all that kind of stuff. Back in the 1980s, fear of the occult was a big problem. It all began when a mother believed her daughter's daycare centre was teaching her to support and worship Satan. This daycare centre is an episode in itself. You know the McMartin Daycare Centre, Hobbit?
Is that the one where a load of dodgy shit happened?
No, where nothing happened, Hobbit. Nothing whatsoever happened. But then the FBI released the floor. Was it the floor plan or the underground floor plan?
Well, it's like when somebody went to Comet Pizza in the Dumpsters and Dives, starring that fat guy who I thought was Seventh Son.
Guy Fieri.
That's it, Guy Fieri.
Yeah.
And they were doing a tour of Comet Pizza, or was it Comet Ping Pong? Whatever that place was called, which didn't exist.
Comet Ping Pong, and they sell pizza, I think it is, Hobbit. So
and they don't exist. And so he was showing Guy Fieri the basement where they keep all the tomatoes, which, by the way, doesn't exist because that basement never existed.
Daycare centres were very new back then, and parents were afraid of the safety of their children. This is one brand new daycare centres in the 80s, Hobbit. Like no one went to school before the 80s. Did you know that?
Well, I suppose daycares would have been new at some point, but I suppose it's a telling thing saying like, oh, mum can't afford to look after the kid. So we're just going to leave the baby with strange.
Well, no, I think the 80s was the point where mum was sold on, you don't have to look after the kid. You don't need to. That was the start of that, wasn't it? It's like, hey, you can be a strong, independent woman like She-Hulk, and you can cry about being catcalled, and then you can twerk.
Why do you want to be burdened with your silly little mistakes? Come work instead.
Yeah, come and double the workforce so we can push your wages down. So this one mother's accusation led an investigation as other parents started making false claims. The interrogated children never said anything bad happened. Parents got so mad at this that many police scared the kids into saying what they hear. I mean, a lot of this is hearsay, isn't it? It's like there's I know from what I've seen on like stuff that you have to be very careful when you ask children questions, because you can put words in their mouth, because they say what you think you want. I mean, you remember when you were little and you'd done something bad, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. You just want to say what'll give you the least amount of grief, don't you?
Well, you could get smacked. You don't know.
So accusations spread across the country, from rock music to card games. D&D was a big part of those accusations. I've still got, I think there's many a record executive that thanks Tipper Gore for putting parental advisory. Tipper Gore, I think she's the wife of Al Gore, isn't she?
Really?
Yeah, you know that little sticker that they used to put on CDs to make teenagers buy it? Explicit lyrics. I think Tipper Gore had a big hand in that, and I think she is Al Gore's wife. Let me just check.
I suppose
how can you have a wife with the name Tipper?
I don't know. Oh, it's got thunderstorms here again, so I might cut out and lose me.
Mary Elizabeth Tipper Gore. What is she? Vice President? Yes. Second Lady of the United States. Yeah, Al Gore's wife, Tipper Gore. So she did some great work for record companies.
So it's a bit like when they say, "Warning: this film contains tits and sex." It's like, oh no.
Yeah. Well, you remember the parental advisory sticker on CDs? I don't know if you still get it or not.
I mean, when's the last time somebody's gone in and actually bought a CD album that is under the age of 30?
I don't know. So yeah, it's why the art on everything is shit now, isn't it? Because it doesn't need to be any good. D&D was arguably the first true role-playing game. Many people feared the occult, and because of these reports with D&D, suicide and murders, people started fearing the D&D. Time magazine published an article about D&D being satanic. Although it was still satire, it still caught on to of course it was satire. It caught on to people's fear of the occult. This fear led to problems with the criminal justice system. For example, the West Memphis three teens accused of murder were prosecuted just because of people being scared of the occult. Even a policeman changed the story about the Irving Pullins case. This is quite interesting because he was scared of TSR suing him. Right, so big cases. So you got a fella called James Dallas Egbert III. Let's see if I can find that. So I've got an article about this guy. Moral panics rise from fear. They usually occur, blah, blah, blah. Where is it? So born in Dayton, Ohio, Egbert was considered a child prodigy, talented with technology at a young age. The 16-year-old Egbert enrolled at Michigan State University as a computer science major. He was a fan of science fiction, fantasy, and Dungeons & Dragons. The tabletop game designed by Gary Gygax. Oh, sneeze. By Gary Gygax and Dave Arneson first appeared. That's a great name, Gary Gygax. I mean, he sounds like a villain. He sounds like some sort of fantasy creature himself, doesn't he? Dave Arneson first appeared in 1974. In it, players assumed fantasy characters that were guided through adventures by a dungeon master. On August 15th, 1979, which isn't during the 80s, Egbert left a suicide note. Egbert certainly was dealing with issues that could have led to suicide, including pressure over his school performance, possible drug use, and the fact he was grappling with his sexual identity. Police began to search for the missing student soon after his parents hired William Deere, a private investigator, to help determine their son's whereabouts. While examining a board with a pattern of pushpins, Deere realised the arrangement of the pins suggested the shape of campus buildings, including the power plant. By this point, the investigator had put together a few theories. Deere got permission to search the steam tunnels under the school based on the power plant design. In the tunnels, Deere found evidence that Egbert had been there, including items that suggested Egbert had gone to the spot intending to take his own life. However, Egbert was nowhere to be found. This is when the paths between the media's focus and the merits of the case diverge. Deere disclosed some of his theories to the media, but decided to keep some of the information out of the press, notably anything related to specific personal problems. However, he did discuss the notion that Egbert might have been... I mean, if you're born with the name Egbert, it's not going to end well for you, is it? I bet. Oh, he's muted. Might have entered the tunnels while playing a live-action version of D&D, also called LARPing, live-action role-playing, where actors act out serious scenarios on location instead of around a table. Deere also noticed the erroneous idea that players might sometimes believe that they are in fact their character, and that Egbert could possibly be wandering in that kind of state.
I believe that's called method acting. I didn't want to share my way with the audience.
The media, taken with the novelty of the thin connection between the game and Egbert's disappearance, ran with it. This dude sounds like he's like an idiot savant, isn't he? He seems like the sort of guy that could work for NASA but not be able to tie his own shoelaces, doesn't he? I bet.
But that NASA is a fully inclusive organisation. What are you talking about?
I mean, if you hear the word steam tunnel, would you be like, yeah, I'm going to have a look down there? That sounds like fun.
That sounds like a place where I won't get horribly injured and then be too poorly to get back up.
Over the next few weeks, Deere's investigations took more turns than the tunnels. He received anonymous calls that promised to reveal Egbert's location if Deere would leave Michigan. He complied. The information led him to a friend of Egbert's who had allowed the younger man to stay at his place. Egbert then moved to other locations, then on to New Orleans. Eventually, Egbert called Deere himself, and the investigator went to retrieve him and hand him into his uncle's custody. On September 13th. Well, I think it might be something to do with the uncle, was probably why he legged it. It turned out that Egbert did indeed attempt suicide in the tunnels with sleeping pills. On August 15th, however, he woke up and made his way to the older man's home. While there, media attention exploded. The older man, afraid of the attention and the implications if the exact details of his relationship with Egbert went public, helped Egbert hide elsewhere in Michigan, then helped arrange transportation for him to New Orleans. Egbert made a second unsuccessful attempt on his own life. So it's nothing to do with D&D. It's because he was being nonced by his uncle.
Yeah, but, what if he had Ghosts and Goblins 2nd edition in his book club?
It reminds me a bit of like Michael Ryan. It's obviously because he watched Rambo was why he killed all those people in that village. Nothing to do with the fact he was just like off his rocker. And then worked in an Egbert made a second unsuccessful attempt on his own life, and then worked in an oil field until the man urged him to contact Deere. Upon being interviewed by Deere, Egbert admitted that academic and parental pressure, combined with his drug use, fed into his suicide attempts. Gaming played no part in it. By that point, the genie was out of the bottle. Attention surrounding the case, even after Egbert was found, was fixated on the D&D angle. What a surprise! The papers get it wrong again.
So what you mean to say is he's covering up from the fact that it's the game that possessed him with the devil.
Yeah. Yeah, again. Yeah.
He makes no apologies about his drug use and stuff, but he does apologize and say, look, this game's got nothing to do with why I tried to kill myself, okay? I think I'm taking the journalist side from this one.
So what else? Yeah, so this is the other one that's quite famous. So we've got that one. So basically, he died five days later. 1 year and a day after he entered the tunnels. Egbert's own parents never blamed gaming for his troubles, instead attributing some measure of his unhappiness to the unusual emotional and social demands that fall on gifted children. How about this one then? So in 1981, Rona Jaffe, a novelist and writer for Cosmopolitan, wrote a novel inspired by the Egbert case. Oh, not the Egbert. I thought it was the next case. The Egbert case. So if you want to watch, if you watch Mazes and Monsters, it features Tom Hanks as Egbert in his first dramatic leading role.
I just saw a big flash of lightning.
Oh, nice.
I'll say.
So the next one is a guy called Irving Pulling. His mother Patricia placed the blame on Dungeons. So he shot 2 people and killed himself. Hold on, I've got to find this one. Oh yeah, I'll do that in a sec. I'll do this bit first. So adding to the D&D panic. So his mother Patricia placed the blame on Dungeons and Dragons. She founded Bothered About Dungeons and Dragons bad. Imagine like calling your organisation bad. In 1980,
bothered bad.
Bothered bad.
Is this a prequel to Breaking Bad?
Bothered. No, she's bothered about Dungeons and Dragons.
I just like the idea that she's in order to make enough money to raise a legal case against Dungeons and Dragons, she goes out and makes amphetamine, not methamphetamine, that's too strong.
Leda Media, she goes out and sells. She goes out and makes cannabis resin, just so people don't really get high at all, and led a media campaign against the game. She also filed suit against TSR Inc. Yeah, this is something we didn't mention earlier about Games Workshop. Games Workshop made their money by importing the TSR games until they happened to come upon a formula that was 25% different from the TSR games, didn't they? A bit.
Oh God! I've just seen. Like, there's this meme saying there's no Easter Bunny, there's no Tooth Fairy, and there's no Queen of England. That's too soon. Come on.
Ah, come on, too soon. Then D&D's publishers. Dia published his own book in 1984, Dungeon Master. Why is it still about Egbert? God, they really obsessed. I can't. Right. So what I'll do is I'll just talk about a Virginia judge yesterday dismissed a lawsuit attempting to link the popular Dungeons and Dragons fantasy game with a high school student suicide. Hanover County Circuit Court Judge Richard H.C. Taylor said that a high school principal who had been sued by the dead student's parents was immune from the suit because of the principle that holds government officials cannot be sued for acts that occur in their official capacity. Well, isn't that good when they keep fucking up constantly, Hobbit?
Yeah, I wrote this law saying you can't sue me for fucking up the country.
Yeah.
No.
The parents of Irving Lee Bink, I think Bink was his nickname, Pulling II of Montpellier, who shot himself after another student allegedly placed a curse upon him during a Dungeons and Dragons game at school, and sought a $1 million from Robert A. Bracey III, principal of Patrick. These all sound like very posh people. When you're a second and a third, you're a posh person, aren't you?
There's somebody who wants to carry on the family lineage, then.
Yeah. Hobbit, no matter what age you ever were, if someone placed a curse upon you, would you believe that the correct action for this is shooting 2 or 3 people and then shooting yourself in the chest?
I mean, what's wrong with that?
I mean, there's obviously something wrong with this fucking geezer. It's like, I love the way they go, oh yeah, it was definitely Dungeons and Dragons that did it. It wasn't like some underlying mental health issue.
Try and prove to me that mass murder is wrong. See, you can't.
Yeah. So parents of Irving, so they want $1 million. Bracey's lawyer William O. Smith argued the principal's official capacity made him immune from the suit, and the judge agreed the plea was well taken. The Pulling family lawyer said the parents will appeal the decision. They're just going to appeal reality. Yeah, because I'm going to talk about his mum, Patricia Pulling. So she formed bad to the bone. I'm bad to the bone. So she founded the public advocacy group Bothered About Dungeons and Dragons. So Bad described D&D as fantasy role-playing game which uses demonology, witchcraft, voodoo, murder, rape, blasphemy, suicide, assassination, insanity, sex perversion, homosexuality, prostitution, satanic type rituals, gambling, barbarism, cannibalism, sadism, desecration, demon summoning, necromantics, demonization, and other teachings, Hobbit.
You forgot the cuddly toy.
Did she miss anything out? Did she miss anything out there?
The kitchen sink.
Bad achieved some success in airing its views in the press. I should imagine by the press they mean like Phil Donahue. I don't know whether you old enough to remember Phil Donahue, Hubbard.
No, sorry, mate.
Oh, he's like the oldest incarnation of Jeremy Kyle, basically.
What was it for there? Was it Robert Kilroy Silk?
No, he was after that. So like, I think it was like Phil Donahue, like what's his name? The one that looks like Mario. I can't remember his name.
That killed itself.
The Hispanic guy that looks like Mario. What is his fucking name? I can't remember. I'm sure his name will probably come up in this because I think he was famous.
I just wanted to reminisce about the bit of...
Oh, you've gone like super quick, Hobbit. You don't like your
what?
You took.
What, am I roboting?
Oh, you're right. You calmed down now. That's better. You'd gone like mega quick.
Okay, right.
So
I just wanted to reminisce about a bit where Robert Kilroy Silk says share or to shaft.
Kilroy Silk also leader of UKIP previous to Nigel Farage.
Oh, okay.
I think Nigel Farage deposed him.
So is Jeremy Clarkson going to be next in line?
Yeah, hopefully. So they.
Controversy over Kilroy Silk.
Yes, he said something about Muslims, didn't he?
Oh, I thought he was pissing up a plate glass window.
Oh, I don't know about that. Hobbit, I think you might have to leave and come back in again. You've gone a bit weird. Oh. It sounds like you're on 2 times speed.
Must be normal.
Oh, that's better. Oh, you're all right now.
What? I did literally nothing. I was about to leave.
Oh, it looks like your internet's caught up now. It was just, I think it got a bit slow, and then it just shoved everything down the pipe all at once. So the organisation distributed.
I'm in the middle of the stick.
Yeah.
I was going to say I'm in the middle of the sticks here. You know, they're having to transfer the internet packets by oxen.
It sounds like it. It sounds like they get behind every now and again, and they shove it all through at once, and then whack it up there with the chimney cleaning tool. So back to Bad to the Bone. The organisation distributed its materials in Australia through conservative advocacy groups affiliated with the Reverend Fred Nile. What do we know about Fred Nile? Frederick John Nile is an Australian politician and ordained Christian minister. Such as the Australian Federation for Decency. In addition, Pulling obtained a private investigator's licence and became a consultant to law enforcement. Well, she was like a real-time fucking Jessica... What's her name from Murder, She Wrote? She became a consultant to law enforcement and was an expert witness in several gaming-related lawsuits, all of which lost in court. She became a director for the National Coalition on TV Violence in 1984. Is this the bit where we should apologise to Mary Whitehouse, Hobbit?
Mary Whitehouse was right again.
Yeah, she was always right.
Pulling co-authored a book, The Devil's Web. Who is stalking your children for Satan? Satan.
Published in August 1989, the book makes no distinction between H.P. Lovecraft's fictional Necronomicon and the Simon Necronomicon, a realisation of the book. Have you ever heard of the Simon Necronomicon?
No, I haven't.
No, nor have I. One portion, it was written by a fella called Peter Lavender. Probably Levensky, who was his real name, was his original name. One portion of the book urges police officers to open interrogations of suspected teenage occultists with the question, have you read the Necronomicon or are you familiar with it? Hobbit, have you read the Necronomicon? Yeah, this woman is serious.
Clatter Varacto
Nictu. Clatter Varacto Nictu. Oh, I haven't read it in 8. Oh no, I'm gonna get my mirror's gonna get smashed, and I'm gonna get attacked by little 3-inch people. As the popularity of Dungeons and Dragons and other role-playing games increased, pulling views and statements were increasingly called into question. For example, she told a newspaper reporter that 8% of the people living in Richmond, Virginia were Satanists. She had arrived at that figure, she explained, by estimating that 4% of adults and 4% of teenagers were involved in Satanism, and added them to get 8%. When the reporter informed that mathematically that was 4%, not 8%, she claimed it didn't matter because 8% was a conservative figure. What do you think to that?
Don't let facts and logic get in the way of my narrative.
Hey, don't get in the way of my narrative. Hey, stop that.
This is very important, okay? You should be concerned about what I'm trying to sell.
It's the 8%. It's the 8% that should matter, not the 2 4% that are 4%.
No. I've got a conspiracy theory for you. What if the Satanic Panic and all this furore about it was in fact a way to make it just seem ridiculous that anybody talking about Satanists are trying to ruin America by ritual human sacrifice?
It does certainly seem that way, doesn't it?
I can see the demons running amok now.
Yeah, I mean this, but I do feel sorry for this poor woman because obviously her sons killed 3 people. I think it was 3 people her son killed. He killed 3 people. Hold on a sec. I think I can find it here. So he did some sort of murder suicide. I can't find who he killed. I can't. They don't really talk a lot about the son's murdering. Let's have a look.
A murder.
So he did. I mean, I do kind of feel sorry for this woman. Like her son's done a murder and suicide, and she's got to find someone to blame because obviously it wasn't anything to do with her. It being her son.
Well, why would you say that?
So it's obviously somebody else's. She's a good Christian, isn't it? There's no way it could have been her that did. It could have been her son that did it.
She's probably as good as Butter's parents. They said why is Butters acting this way? Well, it's definitely nothing we're doing. Yeah, we're great parents.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I haven't done anything wrong. It's like she's obviously looking for somebody to blame because it's obviously not her because she's correct. She's never done anything wrong in her life.
She's correct. It's the corrupting external influences which have ruined her own matrilineal bliss.
So the response to Patricia Pullen was in 1989. Game player and designer Michael A. Stackpole wrote "Game Hysteria and the Truth," which went into all the flaws, misconceptions, inaccuracies, and omission of relevant details and questionable practices, including calling her editing of newspaper accounts illegal, since newspapers are copyrighted material and the owners were not contacted about the use of these articles regarding Pullen's claims about RPGs and in general D&D in particular, concluding, if the suicide statistics for the 14 years since D&D's introduction show anything at all, gamers kill themselves at a rate that is a fraction of their peers. A year later, one of the main main points of game hysteria and the truth regarding pulling were reiterated by Stackpole in the Pulling Report, a review highly critical of BAD's methods of data collection, analysis and reporting. Stackpole found that Pulling had given a misleading account regarding her qualifications, and after he published his report in 1990, Pulling quit BAD.
And she realised that she wasn't going to be making any more money for the show.
Yeah, Bad effectively ceased to exist when Pulling died of lung cancer in 1997. It's obviously that she was carrying all this fucking all this like the. You've said this before, haven't you? Like bearing a grudge, like you carry it around with you, don't you? And if you don't deal with it, it just turns into cancer, doesn't it?
Pretty much. I mean, there's some people that are so eaten up inside. I mean, not that we know anybody like this, but they just can't let go of something to the point where it's poisoned their body, physically poisoned it.
Yeah, and it seems that's what happened with Patricia.
Seriously, like, what good does it do you to hold a grudge? Because all that's going to happen is you're just going to be sitting there pissed off to the point you're going to get a bellyache, and if you carry on with it even more, then great, you've now got a cancer. Well done, you.
I think you still might need to disappear, and I think you're not. Do you want to leave and come back in again or something, Hobbit? Because it's like you're twice the speed and crackling.
That's really good, isn't it? You know, it's
yeah.
For fucking Brexit. Give us a second.
Yeah, it's because you're not in England. That's why, Hobbit.
Give us a second, and we'll load it all up again.
Yeah, no problem. The suit. So back to the Judge regrets. Poor old what's her name again? Pulling. Poor old Pulling. The suit filed in August said Pulling played Dungeons and Dragons as an organised school activity in a group whose leader or dungeon master was a school teacher. Pulling, who shot himself in the chest with a pistol on June the 9th, 1982, left a suicide note that one investigator said contained unexplainable type phrases, apparently references to the games. Sheriff's deputies said the youth room was filled with Dungeons and Dragons paraphernalia. D&D, as it is called, is an intricate problem-solving game set in the medieval universe. Players who are
D&D paraphernalia.
That's it.
Would that include things like Mountain Dew bottles or like Doritos?
Is it bottles with piss in it? Is it? And it comes up.
No, it's bottles of Mountain Dew and Doritos, and for those that actually like cook for a D&D game, they make something called meat bread.
I love it when the police want something to sound bad, they call it paraphernalia, don't they? Have you ever noticed that?
I mean, you could say, like, we noticed in this dog grooming business there was dog grooming paraphernalia. Or we went to this hairdresser's and we found scissor.
Hairdressing paraphernalia.
Yeah, that's it. You know, we noticed that there was scissors, barbicide. We don't know why they want to murder barbers, but we're questioning them all.
So since its development 10 years ago, this shows how old this is, it's become popular on college campuses as well as high school, and is often used as an activity in programs for the gifted and talented. Does that read autists of it?
Pretty much, yeah.
So spokesman for TSR Inc. of Lake Geneva, is that Wisconsin, I think, which owns and distributes D&D material, estimates, like, the language they use in this, owns and distributes. I mean, that's the sort of thing that when you're talking about a drug dealer, isn't it? D&D material, like you could say a spokesman for TSR who sell D&D stuff. Like, there's no need to use language like that, is there?
A peddler.
Yeah,
a disseminator.
A disseminator of D&D material. Estimated that 3 million to 4 million people in the United States. Why can't they just say 3 to 4 million people in the United States play D&D at least once a week? Sales of the materials, just like, it's the word materials. It's just like it's a really loaded word, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's like a conspiracy peddler.
Yeah,
that's
Along with such offshoots as juvenile adventure books and a CBS Saturday morning cartoon show are expected to total 35 million this year. That was pretty... Do you remember the D&D cartoon? You ever watched it, Hobbit?
Yes, I did. And they had the black chick that her special ability was pole vaulting.
Yeah.
You know, you got magicians, you've got paladins, and you know, and like dwarves that can forge rune magic, and it's like, what's your ability? Well, if there's a hole somewhere, I can pole vault over it. What about going around it? Yeah, I can pole vault it.
So Dungeons & Dragons has come under attack by several religious fundamentalist groups, which charge the game... The language is so weird in this article. Which charge the game encourages an interest in witchcraft, and some parents who say they fear the psychological pressures involved. The Arlington School... I mean, sure, isn't it like a relaxing thing? It's like a stressful thing, is it, D&D?
I suppose it can be if you're like super serious in the campaign. It's like, oh, how am I going to get past this dragon which has woken up?
Yeah.
I've just failed my sneaking roll.
The Arlington School Board, shortly after the filing of the suit, banned the game. Board member even though the suit got thrown out, they banned the game. Board member Margaret Vosek cited Pullin's death in proposing to exclude the game from the list of approved extracurricular activities. So if they find if somebody does a murder suicide at school and they're a huge fan of One Direction, does that mean they're then going to ban One Direction from schools?
One can dream.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? It's only certain things that they will do this with. Just trying to see if this BBC article's got anything interesting. Here we go. So, Pulling and bad, blah, blah, blah. In 1985, John Quigley of the Lakeview Full Gospel Fellowship spoke for many opponents when he claimed the game is an occult tool that opens up young people to the influence or possession by demons. Do you remember that thing?
Wow, cool.
Do you remember that thing we read out? It was things where you were like all the stuff that was satanic in Christianity. And it was like it got really fucking weird and really autistic. Do you remember that list of it?
God, yeah. There was. It was basically just Pastor Stephen Anderson saying, "If you're Catholic, then you're going to hell."
Yeah. It kind of reminds me of that. So these fears also found their way into the UK. Fantasy author K.T. Davis recalls showing a vicar a gaming figure he likened to a demon D&D. A gaming figure. He likened D&D to demon worship because they were gods in the game. Why don't these vicars know enough about, if they said that's an idol, they might have a point, mightn't they, Hobbit, in Christianity? But instead they go, oh, it's demons, don't they?
I think there's more of a leg to stand on saying that Ouija boards are for summoning demons.
Yeah.
But they could say this is just a crypto way of summoning demons and doing.
Well, that's what they say, don't
magic they? with books wrapped in human skin and tomes of evil.
How about this one then? Veteran role player Andy Smith found himself in the unusual position of being both a role player and a Christian. That's really unusual, D&D and Christianity. While working for a Christian organisation, I was told to remove my role-playing books from the shared accommodation as they were offensive to some of the other workers and contained references to demon worship. Have you ever played proper D&D, Hobbit?
I've played a game of it, and
are they correct in the demon worship thing?
So you could write about a cult of chaos demon worshippers in it.
Yeah.
And there could be demons in dungeons which have been summoned somehow.
But the thing is, you have to slay them, don't you?
Pretty much.
You don't go and become best mates with them, do you?
No, because they're going to kill you, and any which sort of they don't do that, they're going to just try and trick you and fuck you over in a way that would be worse than death.
Yeah.
So, and you don't play as a demon. I mean, generally, if you got like corrupted and became part vampire or something, you'd start being hunted by vampire hunters.
Yeah. So if you so could you become like, if you're I don't know what the roles are, is like whatever like evil is. I mean, so could you become evil and summon a demon? Is that likely in the game?
They do have alignments. Like they got the chaotic, neutral, and hang on.
Is it chaotic evil? Is it?
Well, the way there's lawful good, lawful neutral, lawful evil. Then there's lawful neutral, true neutral, and chaotic neutral. Then there's evil good, evil neutral, and evil. I get those things, but basically you've got various alignments in Dungeons and Dragons. So if you were chaotic or evil, neutral, whatever, something like that, you could do necromancy. But if you're lawful good, you couldn't do that stuff, and you'd be obliged to try and smite those people.
So there are like specific good and evil roles, then, aren't there? So it's not like ambiguous, and you could get sucked into believing that summoning demons is a good thing.
Do you know? Exactly. You understood what you're doing. It's like, oh well, I'm sacrificing a human soul to give this demon a host. It's like you know you're not doing good.
Yeah. Since fantasy typically features activities like magic and witchcraft, but the thing is though, if you're, I suppose you get good magic users, but generally kind of witches in games like this are people that need to be slain, aren't they? So D&D was perceived to be in direct opposition to biblical precepts and established thinking about witchcraft and magic, says Dr. David Waldron, lecturer in history and anthropology at Federation University Australia, and author of Role-Playing Games and the Christian Right, a community formation in response to a moral panic. There was also a view that the youth had an inability to distinguish between fantasy and reality. No, kids know the difference between fantasy. Well, if your kid doesn't know the difference between fantasy and reality, then you've done something wrong, haven't you? Or they've got a mental deficiency.
Pretty much, yeah.
While the wilder,
don't do the same sort of argument. So saying like, oh, the Columbine shooters were fans of the game Doom, and then the game Doom is really responsible for the Columbine shooting.
Yeah. So while the wilder claims about the nature of D&D tended to emanate from evangelical groups, they prompted wider suspicion. The memes from this campaign proliferated, and being published largely uncritically in the initial stages, led to wide-ranging list of bizarre claims, says Waldron. For example, when a character died, you were also likely to commit suicide. Yeah, like you're not going to top yourself because your D&D characters died, are you?
Yes, you are. Like every time I lose in a game, I lose in real life.
When you poop in your dreams, you poop for real, Hobbit.
Yeah, when it says game over in the game, then it's game over in real life.
The claims being made about role-playing games did not go unchallenged. Author Michael Stackpole was a vocal dissenter. You already spoke about him. So he did the Pulling Report, which we've spoken about. Studies by the American Association of Suicidology. Did you even know that existed, Hobbit?
So isn't that what they get little kids to study in school, and then it increases like suicide attempts?
The US Centers for Disease Control, Health and Welfare Canada all found no causal link between D&D suicide. Isn't it the same with gaming and people popping off as well? Like there's no causal link between the two, is there?
Not really.
D&D continues to be debated in the US, at least. In 2010, the United States Court of Appeals for the Seventh Circuit upheld a ban on D&D by the Waupun Correctional Institution. Captain Muraski, the institution's gang specialist, testified that D&D can foster an inmate's obsession with escaping from the real life, correctional development, fostering hostility, violence and escape behaviour. Or shouldn't they Shouldn't they? I mean, surely the best thing would be to do then would be someone sits in on these games and explains, maybe puts in a link between what you do in D&D and like being good or something like that, couldn't you? I mean, you could turn it into a teaching experience, couldn't you?
Yeah, but I just get a feeling so many people would have excuses like, oh, well, that's not true D&D, and they're hiding the bit about summoning demons for real.
Yeah.
Like, you could do the same thing with Ouija boards and then just say, well, oh, it's not real, it's just people having a giggle, pushing a marker around the board.
So I'll do some highlights from this one. There's a bit from Psychology Today. I confess that as a young, impressionable teenager, I played Dungeons & Dragons. I regularly listened to heavy metal music. My hair was long. I wore a jean jacket bedecked in the names of rock groups. I used to ride my bicycle for miles to meet a group of similarly vulnerable young friends, where we'd hunch over maps, roll dice, and imagine swordsmen, monsters, and bucks and wenches. Today, my friends and I are tragically unsuccessful in life. Those of us who survived, worshipping demonic forces and unable to tell reality from fantasy. Oh wait, we're not. My friends and I are engineers, lawyers and real estate agents, fathers, coaches, husbands and partners. How did that happen? And why didn't it happen the way we were warned? I distinctly recall catastrophic warnings that D&D would disturb our developing minds. That heavy metal music was destroying our souls and morals.
Yeah.
So then he talks about bad. This time he talks about the group joined forces with similarly concerned psychiatrist Thomas Radecki, MD, to raise social awareness of the dangers they perceived in this game. Because role-playing is sometimes used for therapeutic reasons, the role-playing in the game involving violence, sexuality and fantasy believed to have an untoward effect on the youth who fell under its influence. Conservative Christian organisations joined forces with the campaign and linked the influence of D&D with the dangerous and immoral influence of heavy metal music, which supposedly led young people into the arms of demonic influence. Worldwide, groups like... Go on then.
Of course. No, I mean, all of this happened.
Geraldo Rivera, that's who I was... You know the one that looks like... He looks like real life version of Mario, doesn't he? It was Geraldo I was thinking of.
Yep.
He was like a proto Jerry Springer. I
also remember he was doing this show, and Alex Jones was in the same street, and he got the crowd to chant 9/11 as an inside job, and they just sort of like live bombed his show.
So facts confront fear in the 1990s. So there's a bit where he talks about, the stuff we've already talked about. 8% of the American population are secret Satanists. All this kind of stuff. In the mid-1990s, the movement began to die as facts piled up against the fear. Lawsuits began to expose the damages done by the allegations of recovered memories. FBI released a report documenting they found no evidence of secret satanic cult abuse or any organised abuse whatsoever, I should imagine. Psychologist Elizabeth Loftus published research demonstrating that memory is susceptible to influence, particularly from well-intended counsellors trying to recover memories. Team players of D&D grew old enough to advocate for themselves, forming groups to stand up to the purveyors of fear. Research showed that the rates of suicide in registered players of role-playing games were actually lower than that of the general population. Obviously, because it's escapism, isn't it? Like you're chilling out, you're getting out of your own skin and away from your own problems for a while, aren't you?
I mean, isn't that the entire point that people play? I would say the other thing as well with Dungeons and Dragons, if you're doing it like you're meeting up with people, you're having an occasion, you're having Doritos and crisps. Sorry, you're having drinks and snacks.
Yeah.
We're not sponsored by
Doritos and Mountain Dew.
No, so yeah, and it's just you're more likely if you're part of a community to sort of belong to things. You're not thinking like, oh, my life is worthless and there's no point to it. And you might even have some people to talk to about, just like saying, they might say, oh, hey, you're not really, like, you're just being functionally die rolls, and that's it. It's like, "Oh, sorry, I'm going through some problems right now. I can't really role play."
Yeah.
So I think this. I mean, it's much like I used to go out with some mates to a pub, and we'd take it in turns playing backgammon. Like the winner would stay on because it had a backgammon table on it. And it didn't turn me into a helpless gambling addict because we never gambled, and didn't turn me into a raging alcoholic. But it was a nice thing to do. I miss those times.
Yeah, right. So the next bit is empirical research demonstrate that role-playing games had no measurable negative impact on psychological functioning, emotional measures, or reality testing. Obviously, because like we said, you're getting in a group, you're talking to like-minded people, stuff like this. It's only going to be good for you because it's social, isn't it? The leaders of bad were shown to have exaggerated their credentials and cherry-picked their data using facts to their convenience and to feed their goals. This is the best one, Hobbit. Radecki, who claimed that D&D warped the morals of vulnerable adolescents, was arrested in 2013 for sexually exploiting his patients trading Suboxone for sex.
I mean, of all the things you trade for sex, why not heroin? Why Suboxone?
Obviously, it's probably not that. It's probably less controlled than the rest, I should imagine. He talks about why do we jump on bandwagons and stuff like this. That's not a bad article, but we're coming near the end. Are we doing some unexplained histories to finish off, or you got any?
Oh yeah, go on. Yeah.
Let's see what unexplained.
Let's go. I went on X. How to summon succubus girlfriend. And just like that's it pretty much. And schizophrenic ramblings.
Do you know what the Drake equation is, Hobbit? Frank Drake.
No, I don't.
How many intelligent civilizations should there be in a galaxy right now? In 1961, US astrophysicist Frank Drake, who passed away on September the 2nd at the age of 92, came up with an equation to estimate this. The Drake equation, dating from a staging career when he was too naive to be nervous, as he later put it, has become famous and bears his name. Dear, what's this?
It's also known as the Great Filter. Like, you can say there's this many stars we can see which look like our own. And
so his actual equation is N equals R times FP times NE. So it's number of detectable civilizations in the Milky Way galaxy equals the rate at which stars are born, the fraction of stars that host planets, the number of habitable planets per planetary system, the fraction of those planets on which life occurs, the fraction of life that evolves intelligence, the fraction of intelligent life that develops communicative technologies, and the average length of time civilizations are detectable. Considering we found none of those yet, a bit of a shit thing, isn't it?
Yeah. But then again, there might be another explanation for this.
Well, they're not telling us. Simple.
I'm gonna, squeak the wheel, but there is no space, and what we see are aliens are in fact demons, and they're not from another world; they're from another dimension.
Yeah, they're from the unprotected warp, aren't they?
Yep, that's it.
How about this one then? Skeleton of earliest known amputee discovered in Borneo. A 31,000-year-old skeleton is believed the earliest known evidence of surgical intervention. The discovery was made quite unexpectedly by Australian and Indonesian archaeologists who had been searching for ancient cave art in limestone cave in East Kalimantan, Borneo, back in 2020. So, yeah. The previous earliest known example was that of a farmer whose arm was amputated in France 7,000 years ago. It doesn't.
Let's have a look at what else we got.
The analysis of the skeleton revealed the procedure must have been successful because the individual in question had gone on to live for several years after their leg was amputated. So yeah, so he did it right. But then again, as long as you take it off at the joint and stop it bleeding, I think that's probably the two. I suppose infection might come into it, but if I don't know if they'd have fucking hell, the last line, disabled people have always been here. Fuck's sake. Which one did you want to read, Hobbit?
Loch Ness Monster, new sighting, Ian BTFO.
Yeah, fuck you, Ian.
Something strange was moving near the surface of Scotland's iconic Loch during this year's fifth official Nessie sighting. The Loch Ness Monster has certainly been busy this year.
Well, it's all. I know what it is anyway because I've seen the documentary. It's apparently there are currents that go the opposite way underneath the water, isn't there?
No, we got the new term for it now. It's a Fata Morgana.
Oh yeah, it's a Fata Morgana. We know definitely.
Yeah. So according to a report, it was spotted by a resident of Loch End who managed to record footage of a strange, unexplained wake moving through the water. A local resident, no less, was on the hill above Loch End when he saw the wake moving against the prevailing currents from Loch End into the direction of Dromadoish, the report says. There was no visible cause of the wake. The sighting lasted 7 minutes. Footage of the sighting, which can be viewed below, shows exactly what the witness described. A wake moving slowly through the water, not too far from the shoreline. Exactly what was responsible for creating the wake, however, remains unclear. Could there have been a swimmer in the water, or perhaps an animal such as a deer? Or is this the genuine evidence of something large and unexplained lurking in the depths? Yep, it's Loch Ness. Ian BTFO, come on. You got to get on the show and apologise and say Loch Ness is
Have
real.
you seen Lucy, Hobbit? Should we do it? Should we do a review? Have you seen Lucy with Scarlett Johansson in it? Where she's smuggling the drugs and they turn her into a super being.
Oh yeah, actually, I do remember that story.
We'll talk about that in a minute. I've just got one more article to do, and then we'll talk about Lucy, and that will do us then, I think. So they found the 17th century burial was recently unearthed by archaeologists. Vampires may be the stuff of fiction in today's world, but in centuries past, the threat of these undead night-dwelling horrors feasting upon the living was taken quite seriously. In 17th century Poland, for example, such fears were so widespread that special measures were taken when interring the deceased to stop them rising from the graves. This is Hobbit. The particular burial, which was unearthed by an excavation team headed up by Professor Dariusz Polinsky from Nicholas Copernicus University, saw the body of a woman interred with a sickle placed across her neck to ensure a swift dismemberment if she ever came back to life. The sickle was not laid flat, but placed on the neck in such a way that if the deceased had tried to get up, most likely the head would have been cut off or injured. The body had also been shackled to the grave by way of a padlock around her big toe. These methods differed slightly from the more traditional stake through the heart approach. Other ways to protect against the return of the dead include cutting off the head or legs, placing the deceased face down or to bite into the ground, burning them or smashing them with a stone, said Polinsky.
Nice.
So do you want to do a little? Do you remember Lucy?
No, is that the film where she learns how to speak Chinese very quickly, goes to a hospital to get them to do some surgery and scan on her.
Yeah.
And then her telekinesis or telepathy is able to hack into the internet and computers.
Yes. And then she just doesn't she leave her body behind at the end? I don't. I actually don't remember that much about it. No, we're talking about it.
She transcends. Spoilers. She transcends her corporal body, travels back in time to meet Lucy, the last common universal ancestor. Yes, universal common ancestor, whatever they call it, Lucy. And then, the hominid creature is looking in the pool.
Oh, it's directed and written by Luc Besson. I actually quite Luc Besson doesn't do that many bad films.
It's a good film. I've never watched a film by Jean-Luc Besson which I didn't like.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
What's that? So in the professor's lab, she discusses the nature of time and life and how people's humanity distorts their perceptions. So at her urging, she's intravenously injected with the contents of all 3 remaining bags of CPH4, which is the drug in her gut, isn't it? Her body changes into a black substance that begins spreading over computers and other electronic objects in the lab, transforming them all into one next-generation supercomputer. She mentally begins a space-time journey into the past, eventually reaching the oldest discovered ancestor of mankind, Lucy. She shares a quiet moment with Australopithecus Lucy and the 2 touch fingertips. She then goes all the way to the beginning of time and witnesses the Big Bang.
All right, so Australopithecus.
Yeah.
The last common ancestor.
Yeah.
Cool.
So that's that. Yeah. So yeah, I don't think it was, because she's a drug mule. She gets punched in the gut, doesn't she, or something?
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's how she starts getting more and more powers, don't she? Don't she start off like breaking into cash points and things like that? Don't she? Does that kind of stuff, don't she?
Well, she starts off with like managing in an unarmed combat to defeat a bunch of Yakuza triads or wherever they are.
Then.
Just like she first of all, she wins by she's able to do that, and then she gets out. Then she realizes that she needs to find out what's wrong with herself, and that's where she goes into a hospital. Immediately knows how to speak Chinese. And then says, do an MRI scan on me. And then from that, she's able to understand what's happened to her body and how it's irreversible.
Yeah.
They also do this bit about saying you only use 10% of your brain, and so this magic drug activates all of it, which is not true, but it doesn't matter. Jean-Luc Besson did a really good film.
Did you know Christopher Lambert is the CEO of the film corporation that Luc Besson founded?
No, I didn't know that.
That's interesting. Yeah, I'm just reading about Lucy. It's quite interesting, actually. Besson said that he intended for the first part of Lucy to be like Leon, and the second part to be like Inception, but it didn't quite turn out that way, did it?
No, but even so, he still made a good film.
Yeah. I kind of miss the old days of filmmaking because bumping up against stuff is kind of necessity is the mother of invention, isn't it? That's the phrase I was trying to remember.
Oh, was that when we were talking earlier about how films shouldn't be above 90 minutes, and if they do, they ought to bring back the intermission?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of things come from this because when they described RoboCop originally, he was supposed to run really fast, and he was supposed to be able. I think they said as fast as Spider-Man was what they originally wanted, but because of the suit, they couldn't do that. So that's how you ended up with RoboCop's slow and very robotic walk.
Yeah.
I think when you think about it, like RoboCop is like the good version of Jason, isn't he? Like where the instead of chasing the camp counselors like really slowly, he chases criminals really slowly, and he always catches up to them, doesn't he?
And shoots them in the cock, and it's like, you are in shock. I will recommend you a was it rape shelter?
Yeah, a rape hotline or something like that, wasn't it? Such a good film, though, isn't it? I mean, that's like because I wanted to do like for DMS, it was westerns that aren't westerns, and that is absolutely a western, isn't it? It's like Hang 'em High or something like that, isn't it? You know, when he comes back from the dead.
Well, is that the one or High Plains Drifter where like Clint Eastwood plays a guy who's dead, but then he comes back for revenge?
No, that's Hang 'em High because he gets hung, doesn't he?
Oh, so High Plains.
Or are you thinking of? Or are you thinking of? No. Is it Pale Rider you're thinking of? Because he's got where he's got all the bullet wounds in his back.
I thought that was High Plains Drifter.
No, that Pale Rider's. Pale Rider's the one. Isn't the theme from Pale Rider the Channel 4 news music?
Mate, I can't. What? Run that by me again.
Pale Rider is the film you're thinking of, Hobbit, because I think they kind of hint that he died or something, don't they?
All right, let me find out what is High Plains Drifter. High Plains Drifter, because I'm sure I've seen the film and liked it, but it's not good if I can't remember what it's about. High Plains Drifter, 1973 American Western, directed by Clint Eastwood.
Right, Pale Rider. The title is reference to the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse, as the pale horse's Ghost Rider, Eastwood, represents death. I'm pretty sure that's the one you're thinking of.
Right, I will read you from Wikipedia. High Plains Drifter, 1973 American Western film directed by Clint Eastwood. The film stars Eastwood as a mysterious stranger who meets out justice in a corrupt frontier mining town. The film is influenced by the work of Eastwood's two major collaborators, film directors Sergio Leone and Don Siegel.
Yeah.
So now, a bit more about the plot.
Don Siegel, he's done a lot of work with thing. Don Siegel's a pretty good director, isn't he?
So, a mysterious unnamed stranger rides out to the desert wearing a duster and black hat into the isolated lake mining town of Lago in the American Old West.
Yeah.
Three hired town security gunmen taunt and threaten him. He kills all three with little effort, while the attractive blonde townswoman, Kelly Travers, flirtatiously insults him. He rapes her in the livery stable. That night, in his hotel room, the stranger dreams of Jim Duncan, a federal marshal, being whipped to death by outlaws. Stacey Bridges and brothers Dan and Cole Carlin as Lago citizens watch in silence. The next day, Lago officials offer the stranger anything you want to protect the town from Bridges and the Carlins, who will soon be released from prison. It's gradually revealed that townspeople hired these outlaws to murder Duncan when he discovered the local gold mine was illegally on government land, would have to be closed, destroying the town's livelihood. The townspeople then turned in the outlaws on false robbery charges to avoid paying them, and they have vowed revenge. And it carries on from there, but that's the film I was thinking of.
Hobbit, let me just read this out to you. In an audio interview, Clint Eastwood said that his character Preacher is an out-and-out ghost. However, whereas Eastwood's 1973 Western High Plains Drifter resolves its storyline by means of a series of unfolding flashback narratives, although ambiguity still remains, Pale Rider does not conclude any such obvious clues to the nature and past of the Preacher, other than the 6 bullet wound scars on his back and his relationship with Stockburn, who he claims he once knew a man like the Preacher. Viewers are left to draw their own conclusions regarding the overall storyline and its meaning. So yeah, these two films are obviously linked by a similar narrative. I'm just more familiar with Pale Rider, is all.
Yeah, I mean, I've yet to watch an Eastwood film. Actually, no.
Have you seen Pale Rider?
I probably have. I've seen some Eastwood films which really bored me, like that one with the orangutan as his buddy.
You don't Right Turn Clyde? You don't like a bit of Right Turn Clyde then, Hobbit?
Yeah, it was boring. I wasn't really paying attention.
Yeah, if you haven't seen Pale Rider, you might want to watch it, Hobbit. It's a good film.
I put that on my list. I'm not really watching anything at the moment, as you know. I'm just playing games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, Richard Keel's in it as well. You know Jaws from Thingy.
Nice.
Jaws from Bond.
Yeah, who apparently his girlfriend doesn't wear braces, which is bullshit.
Chris Penn's in it as well. I thought I'm thinking of a different film. I thought what's his name was in it, but he wasn't. Gene Hackman, but he wasn't. Oh, westerns. Like if you want to watch a good western, it's the Sam Raimi western, The Quick and the Dead. You seen that, Hobbit? Where there's the gun shooting tournament.
I think I have.
Yeah. That's good. Do we have anything else to talk about, Hobbit?
Oh, not really. Nothing interesting happened today. Nothing at all.
Right, so Gene Hackman is Unforgiven. Yeah, there probably is. Right, anyway, night all.
Given. That was the other one. That was good.
Yeah. I don't know. I remember. I've only seen it once, and it was. I think it was probably because I was younger. I thought it was quite boring because I was used to the pacier westerns. I like a western. I like a western to be pacier. I don't really like pedestrian westerns.
Mm.
Are you eating? Can you confirm or deny if you're eating mussels and chips, Hobbit?
You know what? I actually walked past a restaurant which offered over 40 different mussels, and I stopped next to it to go to a friteur, and I had a really nice burger with it. It was inside a crispy bun, and I had so many.
Was it a
chips,
brioche
so
bun, Hobbit?
No, it was like a crusty white bun.
Ooh.
It was really good.
Oh, I do like a burger in a crusty bun.
And there were so many chips with it as well.
Yeah.
I should have made a chip and burger butty. That would have been delicious. Oh, and of course, Belgian mayonnaise, so it was proper mayo.
Nice. Right, so it's good night from me. Stay spooky. Say good night, Hobbit.
Good night, Hobbit. Ooh.
That's it.